Season's greetings, WOW members and web professionals everywhere. For today's podcast, I'd like to read from my notes that I gleaned from Shawn Henry's web accessibility session that took place at Web Design World last week in Boston, Massachusetts. The hour-long session entitled Accessibility, It's for Everyone and Everything provided a few interesting walkaways, and I'd like to share with you a few of them. I've known Shawn for a decade or so, dating back to the Comdex conference days. She's among a handful of strong advocates for accessibility that I've met over the years. She's written a book on the topic, and it's available as a download. She's also a sought-after speaker as well. As a result of her efforts in this area, Shawn now works for the W3C, where she heads up an effort for worldwide education and outreach, promoting web accessibility for people with disabilities. For session starters, Shawn reminds the audience that any one of us could become disabled one way or another and at any time. You know, it's important to note that when Shawn speaks about accessibility, she's not just talking about addressing the needs for those that are blind or deaf. She also points out that accessibility is about people. In fact, it's about people with disabilities and older users and people using mobile devices and people using new technologies, including people with low bandwidth connections and people using older technology. It's a huge issue, according to Shawn, and if you've been following this podcast for a while, you know we couldn't agree more. Also, if you've been practicing for a while, then you already know that designing with accessibility in mind is a good idea and it makes great business sense. All of that said, one of the walkaways that surprised me was that when I hear industry colleagues like Shawn suggesting how many are not implementing even some of the most basic principles into the mix, it's cause for concern. The reasons vary, of course, and we'll uncover some of those issues for later podcasts, but for today, I'd like to just recap some of the bulleted highlights from her session. You know, older people, and of course I may be included in that group, have issues with color contrast. That's an issue because many older cell phones with limited color palettes have issues in bright lights. Accessibility continues to be an issue because many people around the world simply do not have the connection. Low bandwidth, for example, continues to be an issue in the United States. Also, included in the mix are those with low literacy rate and people who are not fluent in certain languages. They also grapple with these issues. Last but not least, those infrequent users can also have some issues. You know, one of the other walkaways that I think is mission critical for those of us who are practicing in this space or those that are teaching these topics are screen readers. If you're not familiar with screen readers, I'd strongly encourage you to follow the links on this podcast and demo some of these products so you'll have a better understanding of what people with disabilities experience every day. Thank you for listening and happy holidays. Today's WOW Technology Minute is brought to you by WebPro Community Challenge. Sponsored by the WOW and the Dorby Corporation, the WebPro Challenge offers an opportunity to showcase your talent, gain industry recognition, win prizes, and benefit the community by designing and developing a site for a nonprofit organization. For more information, check out webprochallenge.org.